Imagine this. You wake up one morning and something feels off. The world outside your window looks the same. The cars hum in the distance, the sun rises as it always does, and people go about their routines. But something inside you has shifted. It's as if a curtain has been pulled back, revealing a hidden layer of existence that most people never see. You notice the hollow laughter in conversations, the forced smiles, the mindless scrolling through phones as if people are trying to escape from something they can't name. The illusion of meaning that once kept you content now feels paper-thin. At first, you think it's just a passing thought, but then it deepens. You walk through the streets and see a man laughing with friends, but his eyes betray exhaustion. A woman in a luxury car grips the wheel with white knuckles, lost in some silent war inside her head. A child, full of life, asks too many questions, only to be silenced by the tired sighs of adults. And then the realization strikes, they don't see it, but you do. The world is a carefully constructed play, a theater of rituals, ambitions, and distractions designed to keep people from asking the one question that could unravel everything. What if everything you've been taught about life is a lie? Not in the sense of conspiracy theories or secret organizations pulling the strings. No, something much deeper, much more insidious. What if the very fabric of society, the ideals you've been told to chase, the emotions you've been conditioned to feel, the desires that drive you forward, were all crafted to keep you from seeing a truth too unbearable to face? You try to shake it off. Maybe you're just overthinking. Maybe this is some existential crisis that will pass. But then, as the days go by, the weight of knowledge only grows heavier. You see people striving for things they don't truly want, trapped in invisible cages made of expectations. You hear words spoken, but they feel empty, rehearsed, echoes of something long dead. You begin to wonder, are most people even truly alive? And then an even darker thought creeps in. What if ignorance really is bliss? There was a time when you, too, could lose yourself in the simplicity of life, when you believed in dreams sold to you, when the future seemed bright because you never questioned its foundation. But now you can't unsee the cracks in the facade. Now you are the man who knows too much about life. And here's the paradox. Is knowledge a gift or is it a curse? Would you rather be blind and content or awake and tormented? This is the question that has haunted philosophers, poets, and the greatest minds in history. Friedrich Nietzsche spoke of the burden of the Übermensch, the one who sees beyond good and evil, beyond illusion, and must bear the weight of his own existence. Carl Jung warned of the shadow, the dark, repressed truths we are terrified to confront. Jean-Paul Sartre called it nausea, the unbearable awareness of our own freedom. You are standing at the edge of a cliff, staring into an abyss of understanding that few dare to face. But before you take the next step, ask yourself, why does this burden exist? What is it about the nature of reality that makes truth so dangerous? And why do most people spend their entire lives running from it? The answer lies deeper than you think. It is woven into the very fabric of human psychology, into the way society molds us from birth. To understand why the weight of knowledge feels so crushing, you must first uncover the hidden forces that keep the majority trapped in illusion. Because once you see them for what they are, there is no going back. There's a reason most people never reach this point. The weight of existence is too much to bear for those who haven't prepared themselves to carry it. Society, culture, even human biology, all are designed to shield us from the unsettling nature of reality. From the moment you are born, you are fed a carefully constructed narrative, that life has meaning, that happiness is something to be pursued, that success follows a predictable path, that suffering is an aberration rather than an inherent truth. But what if these narratives were never meant to serve you? What if they were designed to keep you obedient, distracted, and sedated? To understand this, we must dig deep into the psychology of illusion, the philosophy of suffering, and the silent chains that bind us. The first cage, the fear of meaninglessness. The great thinkers of history have spoken about the terrifying truth that most people refuse to confront. Life has no inherent meaning. Arthur Schopenhauer called life a cruel joke, a relentless cycle of desire and suffering, where the moment we achieve something, we crave the next thing. Friedrich Nietzsche declared that God is dead, not as a celebration but as a warning. Without a higher power dictating purpose, humanity is left with an unbearable void. Jean-Paul Sartre described existence as fundamentally absurd. We are thrown into a world with no instructions, no objective purpose, forced to create meaning where none exists. But here's where it gets even darker. Most people don't simply ignore this truth. They are conditioned to fear it. The moment a child starts asking existential questions, why are we here? What happens after we die? What if nothing really matters? They are either dismissed or given comforting answers designed to stop them from asking further. Society does not encourage deep questioning, it punishes it. Because to stare into the void and not flinch requires a strength that few possess. It is far easier to accept comforting illusions than to face reality head-on. And so, we construct distractions, careers, entertainment, relationships, social status, not because they truly fulfill us, but because they keep us from falling into the abyss of meaninglessness. But here's the paradox. The more we suppress the truth, the more it manifests in our subconscious. This is why so many people feel a vague, unshakable anxiety in the modern world. It's not because life is inherently bad. It's because deep down they sense the emptiness beneath their scripted roles. They just don't know how to name it. The second cage, the illusion of freedom. We are told that we are free. Free to choose our careers, our beliefs, our paths in life. But how free are you really? From birth, you are placed into a system that dictates your thoughts, desires, and behaviors. The education system does not teach you how to think, it teaches you how to conform. The media does not inform, it programs. Social norms do not guide, they restrict. Even your desires are not truly your own. They are carefully shaped by culture, advertising, and unseen psychological forces. Carl Jung spoke of the collective unconscious, the inherited beliefs and archetypes that shape human behavior without us even realizing it. What if the choices you believe you are making freely are simply echoes of conditioning you never questioned? Consider this. Why do people chase money and status even when they make them miserable? Why do we value productivity over inner peace? Why do people stay in toxic relationships, unfulfilling jobs, and destructive habits? Because breaking free means entering the unknown, and the unknown is terrifying. Society functions on a simple principle. Keep people believing they are free while ensuring they never truly break out of the system. But the ones who know too much, the ones who see through the illusion, are the ones who suffer. They are the outcasts, the rebels, the ones labeled as troubled or difficult because they refuse to play along. Because they realize that true freedom is not external, it is internal. The third cage, the fear of the shadow. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Most people spend their entire lives avoiding the most terrifying thing of all, themselves. Deep within every person lies the shadow, the repressed, hidden aspects of the psyche that society deems unacceptable. The anger you suppress, the desires you deny, the fears you refuse to confront. And yet, these hidden forces control you more than anything else. Why do people self-sabotage? Why do they fall into destructive cycles? Why do they lash out, break down, or feel an unshakable sense of emptiness even when they have it all? Because the shadow does not disappear, it festers. Most people go their entire lives running from their own darkness, pretending it isn't there, distracting themselves with work, relationships, entertainment, anything to avoid looking in the mirror and facing what stares back. But those who know too much, they can't run. They see the shadow for what it is. They understand that true growth does not come from suppressing our darkness, but from integrating it. And yet, to do this is to destroy everything you thought you knew about yourself. It is to realize that you are not who you pretend to be. That your fears, your desires, your dreams, they may not truly belong to you. That the person you think you are might just be a carefully constructed lie. The breaking point. So here we are. If you've made it this far, you already know too much. You've glimpsed the truth that most people spend their lives avoiding. But now comes the real question. Now that you see the cages, the illusions of meaning, freedom, and identity, what do you do with this knowledge? Because here is the great paradox of life. To awaken is to suffer. But to remain asleep is to never truly live. You are at a crossroads. Most people, when faced with this moment, turn back. They choose the comfort of illusion over the discomfort of truth. They suppress what they have seen, convince themselves it was just overthinking, and return to the script that society has written for them. But a few, a rare, tormented few, choose another path. They choose to rebel. They choose to break free. But breaking free is not easy. It requires unlearning everything you have been taught, dismantling the false self you have built, and embracing a terrifying truth that most would rather die than face. So the question remains, do you have the courage to take the next step? Because if you do, there is no going back. You see it everywhere, yet you don't see it at all. The hidden cost of knowing too much. The slow unraveling of illusions, the weight of unbearable clarity, the silent war between perception and reality. Once you have glimpsed the truth, the world will never look the same again. At first, it feels like enlightenment. You feel awake. You see through the lies, the manipulations, the illusions that others blindly accept. The world seems clearer, sharper, like stepping out of a dark tunnel into blinding sunlight. But then, something shifts, because the moment you break free from the illusion, you also break away from the world that believes in it. And that's when the real suffering begins. The loneliness of awareness. Imagine standing in a crowded room, watching people laugh, talk, and move about their lives, but feeling completely disconnected from all of it. It's not that you don't understand them. You understand them too well. You see the invisible strings pulling their actions, the scripts they are following without question. You hear the emptiness in their words, the unconscious fears driving their choices, the desperate attempts to cling to meaning where none exists. And yet, you cannot simply rejoin them. You try. You pretend. You force yourself into conversations, nodding at the usual small talk, but every interaction feels hollow, like watching a puppet show where you can see the strings. You want to scream, to shake them awake, to tell them what you see, but they do not want to know, because to know is to suffer. So instead they call you strange, distant, detached, too deep. They sense that you are different, but they do not understand why. And you are trapped in a paradox. You long for connection, yet you cannot connect the way you once did. You crave understanding, yet the more you explain, the further people pull away. You want to be free, yet freedom has left you stranded. This is the curse of seeing too much. You have walked through the door of perception, but now you cannot find your way back. The prison of overthinking. Once you start questioning everything, you cannot stop. At first, it feels exhilarating, like hacking the code of existence. But soon, the questions spiral into something darker. Every answer leads to another question, and every question leads to another layer of uncertainty. What if nothing truly matters? What if happiness is just a chemical illusion? What if even my thoughts are not my own? What if free will itself is an illusion? And then the worst question of all. If I see through everything, what is left? Because here is the terrifying truth. Illusions may be false, but they give life structure. Without them, everything becomes unstable. This is why so many people, after breaking free, spiral into existential depression. They become trapped in a loop of nihilism, unable to find a reason to move forward. The same awareness that once felt like a superpower now feels like a curse. Because when you strip life of illusion, you must create your own meaning. And that is far harder than simply accepting the one you were given. The rebellion that destroys you. Some try to fight back. Armed with their knowledge, they rage against the system, against ignorance, against the comforting lies that keep people asleep. They become obsessed with exposing the truth, waking others up, breaking the cycle. But society does not take kindly to those who threaten its foundation. Speak too much truth and you will be cast out. You will be labeled a troublemaker, a cynic, a conspiracy theorist, a radical. Because here is the brutal irony. People do not want to be free. They say they do. But what they truly want is comfort. The truth is unsettling. The truth is lonely. The truth demands change. And change is terrifying. So you watch as people cling to their illusions with all their might, attacking anything that threatens them. And you begin to wonder, what is the point of knowing the truth if no one wants to hear it? What is the point of rebellion if the world prefers its chains? Many who see too much turn bitter, consumed by resentment. They become isolated, frustrated, alienated, because they have lost the ability to simply be in the world. They feel trapped between two realities. The world they left behind, where ignorance is bliss, and the world they now see, where truth is heavy and cold, and neither feels like home anymore. The final realization. So here's the ultimate, brutal consequence of knowing too much. You become an outsider. Not because the world rejects you, but because you can no longer fully embrace it. You drift between perspectives, no longer fully believing in the illusions that give people comfort, yet unable to erase the deep, instinctual longing to belong. And so, you stand at a crossroads once again. Do you retreat into ignorance, pretending you never saw the truth? Do you let the weight of knowledge crush you, falling into despair? Do you find another way? Because there is one final path. A path that few take, but one that leads beyond suffering. a way to live with truth without being destroyed by it. But to walk this path, you must break every rule you've been taught. You must rebel, not against the world but against your own mind. And to do that, you must prepare for the most radical transformation of all. Because if you take this next step, there is no returning to who you once were. At this point, you stand at the edge of something terrifying. You have seen the illusion. You have tasted the bitter truth. And now, the weight of awareness threatens to crush you. So what do? You rebel. But not in the way you think. Because the greatest rebellion is not against society. It is against yourself. The world did not imprison you. Your own mind did. And now, if you want to break free, you must be willing to destroy everything you once believed. The lie of escape. The first instinct of the awakened mind is to run. Some try to escape by rejecting the world entirely, retreating into isolation, shutting out distractions, abandoning all connection. They tell themselves, if the world is built on lies, then I will not participate. They become hermits, philosophers in exile, lost souls wandering the ruins of meaning. But this is a trap, because running from the world does not make you free. It makes you a prisoner of your own disillusionment. Others escape in a different way. They numb themselves. They drown their awareness in distractions, drugs, alcohol, meaningless relationships, endless entertainment. They try to forget what they have seen. But this too is a lie. Because to numb the pain of awareness is to reject the very thing that makes you powerful. So if running doesn't work, and numbing doesn't work, what does? The art of controlled madness. The real way out is not through escape. It is through transformation. And transformation requires something radical. You must embrace controlled madness. Carl Jung called it holding the tension of opposites. Nietzsche called it becoming who you are. It is the ability to see through the illusion but still play the game. To know that money is an illusion but still learn to use it. To know that status is a fiction but still navigate social structures. To know that meaning is not given but still create your own. Because here is the greatest secret of all. Freedom does not come from rejecting reality. It comes from bending reality to your will. The real rebellion is not leaving society. It is mastering it on your own terms. And to do that, you must let go of the need for ultimate truth. Because ultimate truth is a trap. You will never find the final answer. You will never uncover the one pure reality. So instead, become a shapeshifter. Learn to hold two contradictory truths at once. The world is an illusion, but it is an illusion you can shape. Once you understand this, you stop being a victim of your own awareness, and you start becoming something far more dangerous, a creator. How to reclaim your power. Most people never reach this point. They either remain trapped in illusion or fall into nihilism. But you are different, because now you see the way out. And it begins with these 3 steps. Step 1, stop seeking validation. When you know too much, the first thing you crave is understanding. You want people to see what you see, to validate your insights, to acknowledge your depth. But this is another illusion. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to get it the way you do. And that is not a tragedy. It is your power. Because once you stop seeking validation, you become untouchable. You stop wasting energy trying to explain yourself to people who don't want to understand. You stop feeling frustrated when others can't see the truth. You stop needing approval to exist. And in that space you reclaim your autonomy. Because the moment you no longer need permission, you are free to move as you choose. Step 2, become the trickster. The greatest thinkers in history all understood a secret. Seriousness is a disease. The moment you take life too seriously, you become a prisoner of your own thoughts. But the trickster? The trickster plays with reality. He sees the absurdity of life and laughs. He sees the contradictions and dances between them. He bends illusions to his will rather than being trapped by them. Nietzsche understood this when he wrote, "One must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star." So instead of fighting the system head-on, learn to play with it. Instead of rejecting human nature, learn to work with it. Instead of feeling weighed down by the truth, use it as a tool. Because the moment you stop taking reality too seriously, you become dangerous. You become unpredictable. And in a world where everyone is following invisible rules, the one who makes his own rules holds the power. Step 3, create, don't consume. Most people who see too much fall into despair. They become passive observers, drowning in information, endlessly analyzing but never acting. But the true rebellion is not thinking. It is creating. The artists, the writers, the visionaries, they do not simply see the world differently. They reshape it, and so must you. If the world is filled with false meaning, then build your own. If society is built on illusions, then create new, better illusions. Write, build, design, speak, influence, change something, anything. Because the moment you shift from passive observer to active creator, you break the cycle. And the weight of knowing too much, it turns into something else entirely. It turns into power, the final door. So here you are, at the end of suffering, standing before the final door. You have seen through the illusion. You have broken the chains of validation. You have stopped taking life too seriously. You have chosen to create rather than consume. And now you are truly free. But there is one last step. One final, terrifying realization. The ultimate truth that changes everything. And once you see it, there is no going back. Are you ready? Because the final revelation awaits. You have walked through fire. You have dismantled the illusions. You have faced the weight of knowing too much, and instead of being crushed by it, you turned it into power. And yet, one final question lingers. A question so vast, so terrifying, that most people spend their entire lives running from it. What if none of it matters? What if all your knowledge, all your struggles, all your triumphs are just dust in the wind? What if the universe is indifferent, the meaning you build is temporary, and in the grand scheme of existence, you are nothing? This is where most people break. This is where even the strongest minds surrender to despair. But what if, just for a moment, you could stare into that abyss and smile? The final illusion, meaning is a game. For centuries, philosophers, scientists, and mystics have tried to answer the ultimate question. What is the meaning of life? But the real question isn't, what is the meaning? It is, why do you need one? The search for meaning is a deeply human instinct. It is hardwired into our psychology, a survival mechanism designed to keep us moving forward. Nietzsche saw this when he said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." Viktor Frankl proved it in the concentration camps, where those who found meaning in suffering were the ones who survived. But here's the secret that almost no one dares to admit. Meaning is not discovered. It is created. There is no cosmic purpose waiting for you. No divine script. No universal law that says, this is why you exist. And if that terrifies you, good. Because what comes next is the most powerful realization of all. The freedom of nothingness. Imagine standing at the edge of the universe. Beyond you, an infinite void. No gods. No rules. No judgment. Just limitless, empty space. And in that space, a terrifying thought creeps in. If nothing matters, then why do anything at all? But look closer. What is the other side of nothingness? Absolute freedom. If there is no preordained meaning, then you are free to create your own. If nothing is written, then you hold the pen. If no one is watching, then you can do whatever you choose. And suddenly, the weight you carried, the existential dread, the anxiety, the fear, evaporates, because there was never anything to be afraid of. Nothingness is not a curse. It is the most powerful gift you have ever been given. The God complex, becoming the author of your own reality. This is where most people stop. They see the void, they glimpse the freedom, and then they hesitate. Because with great freedom comes great responsibility. If you are the one who decides what life means, then you are responsible for everything. Your choices, your beliefs, your actions, your failures. There is no one left to blame. No fate, no destiny, no divine will pulling the strings. Just you. And that is terrifying, but also exhilarating. Because now you are no longer a character in someone else's story. You are the author. And authors don't ask, what's the meaning of life? They create it. The dance of the gods. Once you understand this, everything changes. You stop taking life so seriously because you realize it's all a game. You stop being afraid because there's nothing to lose. You stop seeking meaning because you can build a new one anytime you choose. This is what Alan Watts called playing the game of life. The wisest people in history didn't just accept the absurdity of existence, they danced with it. The Zen masters laughed at the absurdity of truth. The Stoics embraced the chaos and shaped it into discipline. The artists and poets turned the meaningless into beauty. Because once you stop searching for meaning and start creating it, you become untouchable. You become free. And most importantly, you become alive. The ultimate truth. So here it is. The final, most powerful realization. The truth that separates the lost from the liberated, the victims from the creators, the dreamers from the gods. There is no grand meaning of life. There is only the meaning you choose to give it. Once you accept this, you no longer need permission. You no longer need validation. You no longer need answers from anyone else. Because you are the answer. And that is the most dangerous, powerful thing of all. The final choice. So now one last question remains. Now that you know the truth, what will you do with it? Will you retreat into fear, paralyzed by the weight of choice? Or will you step forward, fully awake, fully aware, and start creating? The world is yours now. No gods, no masters, no rules, just you. And the question is no longer, what is the meaning of life? The real question is, what will you do with the infinite blank page in front of you? Because the pen is in your hands, and it always was.